El orden. Do I say first?
Yeah. ¿Cuál orden lo digo?
Hello, we would like to welcome our audience both here and our Facebook live stream to the 2018 Young Ambassadors Program, What's Next in STEM conversation. We are live from the Ford Motor Company offices in Washington, D.C., and our conversation today will focus on the current and new opportunities in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. We have with us Lismar Berro, a global business system program manager with Ford Motor Company. Dr. Astrid Caldas, a climate scientist with the Union of Concerned Scientists. And Zuleirys Santana Rodriguez, or Zuli, a biologist and 2011 alumna of this program. And I am your moderator, Dr. Yajaira Sierra-Sastre. The Smithsonian Latino Center would like to thank Ford Motor Company Fund for their continued support and partnership over the past decade with the Young Ambassadors Program. If you have any questions, please place them in the comment section of the live stream, and we hope to get to them at the end of the conversation. It's my honor to be leading today a panel, an all-women panel, powerful Latinas, scientists, engineers. So let's get the conversation started. So welcome. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
I would like each of you to let us know a little bit about what inspired you to become a scientist, or what inspired you to pursue a career in engineering and science. So let's start with Lima.
So hi everybody. I'm gonna share with you a little bit about how I grew up. My dad was an economist, so it was he graduated in finance, but he was the man that could do everything and like to learn everything. So there was, I would say, a very rare chance that a car would go to a shop to be repaired, or a TV would end up being replaced, because my dad would try to open everything, break it apart, see how he could figure it out, and I had to hold the flashlight and pass all the tools to my dad. So I learned to learn how things work. So I appreciate that, it was rewarding when you can fix something, right? So I started developing a passion to understand all the physics, and a great curiosity to see what was behind the TV, or how somebody could program an electronic piece. So that's how I decided, or I would say I got inspired, and you'll see it in my house. Before something gets to be replaced or disposed, I got the screwdriver and I started looking. And last thing I repaired was about a month and a half ago. I repaired the dryer machine. So that's good. So I ended up being a mechanical engineer. So I love physics, and I try to do the same with my kids. So I try to teach them how things work, and it challenges your brain. And it's okay not to know, and take a chance and see if you can fix it and if you can figure it out. And sometimes you can make things working even better than they were before. So
Thank you, Lismar. So we will learn a lot more about Lismar and the intersection of mechanical engineering and business, because she's a program manager working at that intersection, of STEM applications in the business
Sure.
world. But let's ask Zuli to let us know more about her background and what inspired her to become a scientist.
Well, in my case, it's a little bit different. So my grandfather is an agriculturer in Puerto Rico. So we're surrounded by a lot of green and beautiful mountains and everything. I love my island. That is something that I'm very proud of. And I made it very clear when I was a young ambassador in 2011. But one of the things that I saw him always working on the land, and I was like, well, let me start studying biology. But during high school, there was a professor, which his name is Elliot Lopez, that he was doing environmental research in caves and in like the forest. And I started getting involved in it and trying to learn how our ecosystem worked. But then during the trajectory of undergrad, I started doing biomedical research. So I did proteomics, which is the study of proteins. Then I did neuroscience, neuropharmacology, and toxicology. And now I'm in the genetics field. So I started like changing a bit. I'm still in the sciences, but I just look for different ways of how I can contribute to it. But I remember still that I would talk to my grandfather almost like every week or every 2 weeks about how everything that he's doing in the land and how it works, everything that's happening with the USDA, for example. There are things that I think I'm still very passionate about. And even if you're not on a bench or you're in the field or so forth, I think that that's one of the things that motivate me in science is the diversity of everything that you can do while being in science.
Excellent. Thank you, Suli. What about you, Astrid?
I was a city girl, growing up in apartment buildings and big city, Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. But my father, seems there is a father figure here thing going on. My father was always crazy about nature. You know, it's just like watching National Geographic lately and, you know, all these Animal Planet. And so he would take us, make a point of every weekend, take us to the parks and take us on trips to see nature, to go to national parks, and to the beach also, of course. So I always enjoyed those trips, and I kind of developed this appreciation for nature. And I don't even remember, but since I was before high school, I wanted to be a scientist. The thing is, I wanted to work with microscopes and stuff, but I ended up loving the beach so much. I ended up working with insects on the beach, which was perfect because I would be just hanging out on the beach and collecting data and doing my research. And eventually, I worked with a bunch of different insects and ended up working a lot with butterflies. But that passion for nature was really what kind of guided me through my academic career. And now in this new stage of my career, it's also the love of nature, because climate change is kind of a threat to all the things beautiful and all the things that we have learned to love and that we're used to. And things may be very different. So now I work with climate change, and all it's because of this passion for nature.
Thank you. Thank you, Astrid. So let's get back to Lismar. I was reading in your biography, Lismar, that prior to joining the Ford Motor Company, you worked for Procter & Gamble.
Correct.
Back in Caracas, Venezuela. Lismar is originally from Caracas, Venezuela. And I found very interesting from your biography that you were one of the first females, or the first one,
I
right?
was the first one.
In the largest production manufacturing facility in that location.
Yes.
And I wanted to ask you what does it mean for you to be a pioneer, and what do you think is the impact of choosing to be the first?
Okay, so I think it's a proud moment, right? I usually take things like a challenge, and I'm competitive, and there were moments, right, that I would say they could bring you down, but it depends on your attitude, how you take them, right? So you can decide to turn them and say, okay, I'm going to show you. And in that effort to demonstrate how good you are, you become a star, and without noticing, because you think you're just doing what you need to do. So what I would tell you is, no matter in what field you are, if you're the first, if you're the newest, just take these challenges as opportunities and demonstrate what you're made of. And without noticing, you're going to excel. And that what happened with me. There were people, and all open with you. I mean, the secretary was a gentleman. Every person there was a male, and I was told, well, we really like your interview, and we don't have any lady, any female in this facility. You're an experiment. If you work, we might get other women. There were no women restrooms in the production area. The only lady restroom was in the reception, in the lobby, which was in a different building. And they would forget, if I was at nighttime, the night shift, that I was there. Mm-hmm. And they would lock it. So it was quite challenging, right? Wow. But, and then some people, they were not used to have just graduated from college, young lady, telling them what was the program for the production that day. But you know what? I work hard, when a machine broke down, I got under the machine with the machine repair, and I was like, show me, and then what's happening, right? And I learned. Never be afraid if you don't know everything. Nobody knows everything. You can be an expert. You can have years under your belt of being graduated, multiple jobs experiences. Nobody knows everything, and it's that humbleness that make you search for help, gather more information, being resourceful, and being a great team player. So people will like working with you, and you sometimes have the greatest idea, sometimes you don't have the greatest idea, and maybe nobody has it, but it's the combination of everybody that made the greatest one. So it was a challenge. After me, I'm happy to say that there were multiple women coming. I was promoted, and somebody, another lady that's still my friend, replaced me in my job at that time. So it worked.
I like what you said about taking challenges as opportunities.
Yes.
Not just for us, right? Because when we take a challenge as an opportunity, we will get benefited, but we are also creating opportunities for others. That's what I'm seeing in your story.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lismar. So, Zuli, you're from Puerto Rico like me. Very proud Boricua.
Always.
And I saw in your biography that you have a bachelor's degree in cell and molecular biology, a minor in chemistry, and you aspire to start a graduate program in science law.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit more about that combination of interest and what has driven you or inspired you to now take upon this challenge of exploring a different field like science law.
Yes. So, as I said, my bachelor's degree in cell and molecular biology and chemistry. I've been doing research since I was in high school, so I'm very used to being on a bench. Doing microscope, I did a lot of like focal imaging and just being there 16 hours a day, which is very normal if you're in the science field. But then one of my passions is helping people. I am very devoted into what is happening currently in the world, what challenges we're facing, and how can we change what is happening, which right now in science we're suffering a little bit. But when I wanted to go to graduate school, I thought that I wanted to do a Ph.D. in biomedical research. I thought that was the line. It was like, this is something that I've been always doing all my life, so it should be quite simple. It was like straightforward. But then during the process of application, I had mentors and people that would tell me like, are you sure this is what you really want to do? And then they continue asking you this question, so get used to it. So people will start asking you like, are you sure? Is this what you want? And then you're like, oh, I have this plan. Yeah, it's like I've had it all planned out. I'm going to graduate in 5 years, then I'm going to do a postdoc, and then this is what is going to happen. No. I sat down, and I think it was like past November, I realized that I did not want to spend the rest of my life in a bench, because I am very committed into helping our government, our society, and how can we change the world in a different way. I know that I'm a very people person. I know that my strengths are communication and being with others, and then I found out that Northwestern has this wonderful master's degree in science and law. So that was like a breakthrough. It was like, I am going to apply to it. I hopefully can get in, because it gets to the point that when you're changing careers, you're going to have doubt. If you're changing like a single route, it happened to me. Like, I know like I have a great CV, and I was like, I'm very clear, I know that I'm good, but you start doubting. And that happened a lot when you change from bench research into like, let's say like a social law aspect of it, and it's terrifying. But now I'm like extremely excited. Then I got accepted. Like, I remember I sent my application on a Friday, and Sunday night I got my acceptance letter from the program, and I was like, yay. So now one of the things that I want to do is that I've been in academia. Right now I'm in industry, and then afterwards I want to be in government, because that's where the power relies to make a change into the science field, and how we can change how it's shaped for like young people and the generations to come. So I think that's one of the reasons why I changed from bench research into this completely different field, still in science, but more into the social aspect.
Excellent, excellent. I find very interesting that you were getting these questions from people, right? Mm-hmm. Are you sure that's what you really want to do?
Yeah.
Because I believe it takes a lot of like discernment, right? We need to discern whether or not those voices are trying to discourage us from pursuing a dream, or whether it's, with really good intentions. People see other types of skill sets and they want the best for you to be able to utilize or the skills that they see on you. So,
Yeah, it was
excellent.
great.
Excellent. So Astrid, so you work for the Union of Concerned Scientists, and you are working also in science policy. So that's part of your
That's
job.
correct.
Share with us about the nature of your job, what you do in a day-to-day basis, and what does it look like to work at the intersection of climate change or climate science and science policy.
Sure. First of all, I'd like to draw a little bit on Lismar and Zuleirys' comments, remarks, because one thing that I did was to completely change careers after a long, long time in academia. So to make that change, it's scary, no matter how old you are. I had 25 years in academia, but it was like, will I really make this change? Is it really the right thing? But drawing on what Lismar said, do not be afraid to follow your gut. Do not be afraid to believe in yourself, because that's what ultimately, even at a later, older age, kind of took me through the finish line. So, Union of Concerned Scientists, my dream job. After I decided to leave academia and work with climate change, it's really a great place to work. The people are great. The work that they do is very significant to everyday lives of every people in this planet, not only in the United States. Even though we work with the United States with a focus on federal, particularly federal policy, I thought that in the past, the amount of knowledge that I amassed throughout my life would be very useful to use in policy, making people's lives and the environment better. And that's what I do. Working at a big nonprofit that is a science advocacy organization like the Union of Concerned Scientists allows me to put my knowledge into practice and come up not only with new research and new analytical research that will help guide policy, legislation, regulations, and everything at the federal level, but also synthesize current knowledge on issues that can be very controversial and that really need that science information to kind of go the right way that we want it to go. So it's very rewarding to be able to say, hey, look, NASA got the money. We worked towards that. They need to get that money to keep monitoring the climate. And we fought hard for that. We wrote blogs, we wrote papers, we wrote statements. We were working nonstop to get that funding. And like that, many other victories that we've had. And these victories have been happening. They have been happening in this environment that we are on, that we know it's not very friendly of science, and it's not very positive for the development of science and for the use of science, for the environment and for people's lives. But we have victories and we work hard for them, and it's extremely rewarding. And the Union of Concerned Scientists, we managed to really put the science out there where it's needed. It's a great place. I want to retire there. I'm not going anywhere.
So that's good to hear that you're enjoying your time and living science, a science career with a purpose, a great purpose.
Yes.
So we will get back to you to talk more about what makes a scientist be an effective communicator. And I know that Zuli, as you mentioned, you have some interest in that area as well. But I would like to ask Lismar. I also saw in your biography that you have a master's degree in product management. Is that
product development? Yeah.
Product development. But Lismar is also a mechanical engineer. So I wanted to learn more about that combination of careers and fields, and which topics you learn during your master's degree. What areas or topics did you learn that you apply now in your position at Ford Motor Company?
Okay, so the master in product development that I took was a combination between the schools of engineering and business. So there was a lot of analytics, there was some marketing and financials. So part of the marketing is also how to communicate and campaign your products, how to understand your customers, right? So which is very critical. and the financial part is also critical to make a business successful, right? So to know that you have a positive business case, and that is critical. So if we always gonna find ourselves, even if it is a law that we're trying to pass, or if it is a project, a great idea, we're gonna find we had to master the science of present the benefits and to understand the risk. So we can evaluate how viable our idea and how truly beneficial, and if it's the right thing to do. So sometimes engineers are very number oriented, and we are don't worry so much about the communicational part. But if we don't master that as well, we struggle a lot on the way, right? So it's critical for us to work on the marketing side, and the communication part is as important. So that would be, I would say, what I enforce the most through my master.
Excellent. Do you want to share a little bit more about what you do as a program manager in the global global revenue management business systems?
So, okay,
title.
it's a long title. It takes a lot in the business, right? So here, I do have, or I have multiple global positions within Ford, which are very challenging, and they're also very rewarding. So I think the global revenue management is where we study how competitive our parts are versus the aftermarket and the competition out there. Being global, in my team, we have the responsibility to develop global systems that interface. I have 3 major systems. One is focused on interfacing with our dealers, so we gather information directly from our dealers around the world. So we know where we have good customer service, what are the different factors, what are we selling, what we're not. And we can even start digging on opportunities and trying to understand why are we in certain areas and not so much in others, right? Having the ability to have this globally also help us benchmark, right? So you understand why this is working, let's say in Germany, and it's no, it doesn't look like that promising in Mexico, right? So we are, in some of the projects, we are already global. We are in all the regions. In some, we are on our way to be global and present in all regions. So one of the biggest challenges is to standardize. So if you're gonna have global analytics, you had to be able to compare apples to apples, right? So, and everybody has different languages, different ways to measure things, and we had to understand. So one of the biggest skills is to know how to listen, right? Because sometimes we think we know how it should be, but how to listen. You might know how it should be. Put that aside for a moment and say, okay, how do you think it should be? And capture that. So while you're going through that with all the regions, you start creating teamwork, and you create trust too. So somebody, you show that you care, and that you care about their needs and their wants. So once you understand all this, and then you come up with what could be the best practice, right? What would be your global edition? And it's about working it through to make sure that you address the concerns, and then you have a successful plan. That is tricky, because you can know, how you do that without making it a forever lasting project. Usually you have set budgets, specific manpower, and you cannot perhaps accommodate everything. So it's about a balance, right? What is the benefit, what is the cost, and what is the best opportunity, right? So working globally, it can be challenging, but it also, when you get it done, the opportunities are infinite, right? So what we can learn from each other. So that's what we're doing. So we're trying to improve our service and our part business globally, and trying to be the best out there that our customer would always seek after. So,
excellent, thank you. So we hear a lot about outside the box thinking, but sometimes when we have this constraint, it's like inside the box thinking, or in your case, inside the globe system.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yes,
Thank
I
you.
have a good example. Like
Yeah, go
if
ahead.
you, sometimes we try to create very cumbersome, complex solution, right? And sometimes the best solution happen to be the simplest one. So I give you one example. One time we were working on some racks to transport some of our more delicate parts. And then we had these steel racks that were one of a kind, and then they were very, very expensive and had pneumatic closures and you name it, right? We were having problems with the design in particular. At this point, I was in manufacturing, I wasn't in global revenue management. And we were going to the lab where we test all this equipment, right? So we know our parts can be shipped up without getting damaged, right? And we saw a standard container off the shelf, and we asked the question, what if we were to put this piece here and just build internal dunnage, you know, to hold it like a little, imagine like the carton for your eggs, you know, something that could hold it in place. And it was just a square bin that you could buy, you know, out of a catalog. And it was extremely cheaper. And we said, okay, what if we put some dunnage and let's test it? And it worked. So what I told the guys, sometimes we need to think also inside the box, because sometimes we, you know, you start creating and then going and sometimes getting things extremely complex when there is a moment that is good to say, okay, let's get out of the forest, right, and look at it again. And then you might find that sometimes the greatest solutions are in front of you, and you walk
That's
by
right.
without looking at them.
That's
So
right.
That's one.
Thank you, Lismar.
You're welcome.
So, Zuli, share with us a little bit more about the work that you are doing at Progenity, right?
Progenity. Yes. So sadly, I cannot say much in depth because I am what it's called an asset transfer tech. So an asset transfer tech, what I do is that everything that is in research and development and needs to go into the clinical side, I'm the person in between. So everything that's in a micro scale, I'll make it into a micro scale, which is very challenging sometimes. There are projects that we are currently handling that will come from R&D, for short. And when I want to make them big, they do not want to work. And then you have to do a lot of troubleshooting, and that's when all my academia background comes into place. Because sometimes, like, there's always this fight between academia and industry, a lot. Because they're like, oh, in industry it's very simple, but it's very difficult to get in. And then researcher, like, when it comes to like industry, there's like, oh, researchers don't know what they're doing. Every now and then, it's a fight. It's normally in every field. But then in my position, what I try to do is more implement everything, all the troubleshooting that I've done that you need to be trained on, and you will cry many times when it doesn't work, but then you just continue moving forward into what can be of help. Going into a line is like sometimes like it's the more simple details. Like, let's say you're making a solution, a buffer. There's only, literally it's only salts in water. Simple, right? No. If you put like 1 milligram different, it is not gonna work. So you have to start like using this like critical thinking of what am I doing right? What am I doing wrong? Let's break everything apart. So instead of, as I said, like instead of looking at just like directly, you just have to divide it by pieces. There are experiments, like I did an experiment this week that I tested 6 or 7 different conditions in one plate, because I couldn't just like accept that it wasn't working. I was like, this is not happening. And what I started doing is just like breaking apart everything of it. I was like, I'll change, instead of using this buffer, I'll use this other one. Instead of using this component, I'll use this other one. And then using everything, running the same machine. But then I did it instead, we have like 4 machines of the same that would do like this genetic testing. And I was like, well, I'll use 4 of them, the same plate, test it in all of them. I want to rule this one out. So I always have to be thinking of what if, what is wrong, how can I help it, how can I break it down. When I was in academia, I worked in an imaging lab, and sometimes like I did a lot of animal work, and I would do surgeries, take out the adrenal glands, look for the cells, and then I had to image and see if like there's a process of exocytosis. So I studied exocytosis and like our nervous system in response to stress. So what I will try to see is like if there's no exocytosis occurring, is it because I did the buffers wrong? Is it because the scope I didn't image it correctly? Is it because like the mice are sick? Are my mice okay? And then you just have to like in my brain, it is never like a straight line. I need to break everything apart and compose it. And if you see like my desk is a mess because I just have a bunch of papers of like troubleshooting, sticky notes everywhere. And my boss is like, right now with the in Progenity, he looks at me, he's like, I don't know what's happening in there, but keep it going. He's great. Like I'm really happy with like the company that I'm working on, and it's very like it's an interesting mix of like how when you're in academia, you're always thinking about the grants. You're always thinking like, oh, let's see what is aligned to our grant. In industry, it's more like, let's see what our client wants, what our like our patients need, what are the doctors need. And I'm like, oh, and then the budget is very different. That I do enjoy because they're like, oh, you need this, okay, and they order. I'm like, wait, are you sure? Like, that's no, let me try to like use less things. And they're like, it's fine. So I like how my supervisor always tells me like, I'm gonna kick the academia out of you, but in a nice way, because I get paranoid. I'm like, but this is like $5,000. I don't want another one. And he's like, it's fine, we can get it if you really need it. I was like, no, I'll build it. Like I'm used to like building things, and like I was like, I don't want to reuse this. I was like, let me reuse it. Let me try to find it. And he's like, no, we're gonna buy it. We need another one. We do a lot of carrier screen testing, high sequencing. Like we sequence like the genotype. If you want to have kids, something like you parents will send like their blood samples, and when we sequence what kind of disease can your kids have or they're propense to. Mm-hmm. And I remember like I was talking with him and I was like freaking out because there's like a PCR polymerase chain reaction machine called the Berro, and he's like, we're gonna buy a couple more. And I was like, no, I can just squish it at another time. And he's like, if I tell you how much this equipment costs, would it calm you down? And I was like, I don't know. He's like, $1 million. I was like, okay, no, yeah, just buy the Berro. I'm fine. I was like, this hurts me. I was like, oh. So I think is more like my job. I find that as a game. You're always playing how can I fix and how can I break it to try to fix it. Mm-hmm. Because that's the other part. Like after I make the experiment work and everything's fine, then I need to start breaking it. And how can we solve it? I was like, what if I use like this buffers from like a year ago? What if we use this other thing for another year? And it's always like I'm always breaking and fixing. And my mind sometimes is honestly a mess, because I'm just like thinking of everything, and I have like 2 projects at the same time, or like thinking about how to see above, like, okay, we're doing this project, what if we start this other one? Because I'm still with the research and development side. So I think that's always something that I enjoy about my job, that I'm never gonna be bored. I'm never doing the same thing every day. Sometimes I honestly wish that I could do the same thing, because it's like I don't have to think about it. But there's always something new. There's always something breaking. There's always something that does not work and that you have to fix it. But it's very challenging, and I think that's one of the things that I enjoy about the science field. It's never the same. We're always changing. Right. There are new challenges, and you just continue moving forward. And there's new people. Like I'm the youngest one right now in the company, and I find it really amusing because I have very different views, and I'm always changing things. And then when you have like, not necessarily the supervisors, but like lab managers, they're like, they don't like change because this has always worked this way. And I go like, no, I want to change everything that you're doing. So be open to change, be open to what it can bring. And as I said, like sometimes, like you said, like it may work, may not, you don't have the best idea. I've had really terrible ideas many times, but I have a good supervisor that he always like tells me like, let's try it out. Do this set of experiment. If it doesn't work, it's fine. And I was like, okay, I think that's like the good liberty. And now it's difficult for me like hearing no, because they do like lines, like they go like industry's like no, and no, it's no. In academia, it's like no, but you're like, I can come at night and do this experiment, and if it works, you'll be happy. And it actually happens sometimes, because you just do the experiment, it works, because over there it's like no, and then they give you like some just like the reasons. They're like, this is not what the client wants, this is out of our focus, this is not what we do. In academia, sometimes like you go like, oh wait, this is no, but then a good result, and everything changes, and their PI is like, yeah, and then the lab can move forward into that direction. So yeah, I think my job right now is like moving a lot, confusion. Like it is a machine of like ideas, but it's very rewarding, and in the mix of academia and industry is always looking forward to.
I agree with you. It never gets boring. A
No.
career in science, technology, engineering, and math never gets boring.
Never. It's always, that's a good part. You're always entertained.
So. Thank you, Kelly.
You always
So
entertain yourself.
Yes.
Uh-huh. So Astrid, share with us a little bit more about your background in entomology, ecology. What did you do prior to joining the Union of Concerned Scientists? And if you can share a little bit about how you use your communication skills now that in your science policy.
Certainly. Who doesn't like to talk about themselves? Okay. So I was in academia for a long time. I got a master's in entomology, studying insects. Then I got a Ph.D. in ecology, with the ecology of insects. So I didn't study a particular insect, I studied the ecology. So I was interested in the processes, not interested in the insect itself. So depending on the problem that I wanted to study, I would use a different insect. That's why I studied fruit flies, beetles, ants, flies, bugs, like bed bugs, they are a group, and finally butterflies and moths. So depending on what I wanted to study, I would use a different insect group. And drawing on what Zuleirys was saying, ecologists are always thinking about all the possibilities, right? So now that I'm working at the Union of Concerned Scientists, since I changed and I explained already what drew me to change, it was also because climate change was literally not allowing me to complete my experiments in academia. I was doing these experiments with butterflies and moths, and in 3 years in a row I didn't get any results. And it was all because of climate change, because they were messing the life cycles of the insects, they were messing the plant life cycles, there was no interaction. When the bugs came out, the plant was not there for them to eat. They came out, and then the natural enemies were not there to eat them. It was a big mess. So that was another reason why I started working with climate change. But in my job now, it's funny because whenever I'm doing something, I have so many things that I think about, and I count on my colleagues and supervisor and everybody, my team, to kind of, Astrid, focus. We want to go this way. Yeah, this may be a factor, but let's focus. Let's move here. It happens very often. And sometimes it pays off to have that, that's something we didn't think about, and that will branch out into a different project or a different line of thinking that we will cover in our policy research. So that's actually very interesting. But I'm always listening. I'm a good listener. Listening is also very important. So what Lismar said about speaking the same language and show that you care. When you're doing science communication and you're communicating science to different audiences, it's not only show that you care, but you have to show them why they should care. When you're talking about something in science, people are like, so what? Why do I care? I mean, why do I care about climate change? Why do I care about the global warming? It's going to happen 100 years from now. I'm not going to be here, whatever. It's not going to affect me. A lot of people think it's not going to affect them directly. So you got to speak the same language. You got to draw from common values with the different audiences that you're speaking to, so that you don't come across talking oranges when people have always been used to apples. You have to find that common language, those common values. And you have to kind of do a little bit of research on their tribes, as I call them. People are very tribal, particularly in the United States. And that's one of the main reasons why we see this big, deep divide in certain issues, not only climate change, but vaccines and other evolution. It's because people want to be part of their tribe. They don't want to be the first ones to desert the tribe and say something that will affect their social standing with the group of people that they care about and that they have always been a part of. They don't want to be the ones breaking the news that, hello, climate change exists. Hello, sea level is rising. So we try to find common values, talk to people about things they care about, health, children's health, their wallets, the economy, jobs. These are ways, these are doors to bring the conversation to a common point, because there will always be something in common, even with the person that you think is the most opposite of you. There will always be a point, and the trick is to find that point so that you can draw on it and have a fruitful conversation with people. And that's really what I do a lot when I'm communicating science. It's a lot of fun.
Thank you, Astrid. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. At the end, we are all humans, so let's not forget. We need to, yes, as scientists, we get very excited and passionate with in conversations when we talk about what we know. But let's not forget to exercise compassion, kindness.
Exactly.
All those other soft
respect.
skills.
Respect other people's values. Do not come across as patronizing.
Yeah.
The person may not have a Ph.D. or even a higher education, but they have their life experience, and that's all that matters to them. And you got to be able to kind of talk to them so that they understand that you care about them and that you are there to really help in ways that they might not have realized before.
Thank you, Astrid. Wonderful.
Sure.
Beautiful. What about you, Kelly? Like, when you think about science communication, you aspire also to become a science communicator, right? Or communicate science more effectively. Can you think about attributes that we should have or gain or skills that we should practice in order to become more effective?
Well, in my case, I actually will go more into the written part of it. Like, I write blogs. I'm part of like Michigan Science Writers. I'm one of their editors for like the University of Michigan. I go more into paper. Like, I like to leave a paper trail and with everything. So I will go more into like, I completely agree. That's how I would always go for like being respectful. Look for what they want to hear in a way, but giving your message across completely. And biomedical research is more on the, how do I explain this? So we're doing very small micro scales. Let's say like I was studying stress, but I was looking at a cell, and I was like what it's called like basic research. So you were like very far back from what an actually developing of a drug is. But when you tell them like, oh, I discovered this protein has this effect on it, that can, and then you have to go into the macro scale, like this is all that it can affect, and this is how you should like be working with us during this process. But I would always recommend, like, it's beautiful, like you have to be passionate about what you're doing. You need to always portray it. Like, I would go to conferences, like last year I was at an international conference in Sheffield, England, showing like the research that I was doing on stress, and I am like, they always seem in there, like the scientists, this is a man's world in science sometimes, and it's very difficult when you're a woman and you're young, and if you look nice, they look at you like, oh, do you know what you're doing? And then you have to just like be very polite. I learned this like in a hard way, like I'm very polite, and then I just show him my poster and I go through it, and I know everything that like I wrote, like I know all the papers that are in that field, and I write it down. Like I have like a beautiful spiel, and then they're like, that's how you like capture their attention. They're like, oh, wait, and then I'm just portraying, because I everything that I do, I need to be excited about it. Don't be in a field that you do not love, because then your communication skills are going to be completely affected. Because if you don't want it, it's like, let's say I was like, oh, I'm going to talk about paper. It's like, yeah, paper is great. I don't know how to make it, but whatever. No, they're going to know. But when you're like, I was like, oh my God, like stress, exocytosis, synaptotacmin, and I would just tell them all these keywords. It's good that you know like which keywords to which audience. So during high school I studied like marketing, so that was something that helped me a lot, because I just like start looking at their charts and I'm like, what words does this group want to hear? And it depends too, like at that conference I like because the Spaniard group was more interested in the one protein, but then the Copenhagen group was interested in the technique. And then I would just go like, if I talk to the Spaniard group, I will be about like, oh, but the protein we discovered this and this and this and this, and they're like excited. But then with the Copenhagen group, I was like, oh, but then we used this technique, which actually what I used like was like this methods, and that's how like I capture all their attention. And I was like always like with them, and I would get more information coming from them. That's the other part. Like I was learning from them, I was listening, and then you just like have a brother view. Right. After that experience, I started like continue writing about it. Like I enjoy, like I will sit down and write all my experiences. I don't publish them or anything, it's just more for clarity. But I recommend now that you're starting your undergrad, if you can get involved in like, let's say there's like different types of journal clubs and so forth, that would help you a lot. Because then if you want to continue like higher education, like even like do a master's degree or PhD, that is gonna help you so much, because then when you have to write a paper, if you're in science, you're not gonna suffer as much. You're still gonna suffer. Writing papers is painful, very painful, especially when you have to write the introduction. I think that's the worst part for me, like always. It's like, always, it's like that part, because I like the data analysis, like the conclusion, because that is like everything that I did. The introduction is like, what has everyone else done? And then you just have to like gather all that information and all the citations, so forth. But that would help you a lot. So always keep a paper trail. And even out of like communication, like when you get into the working world, send everything by email. Keep it written. Sometimes like it helps a lot. I learned that last year when I left academia. I'm very happy that I always kept that paper trail. It's very important. Keep always like, it's great communicating. Be very clear. Be very respectful. Always respectful. It will get open so many doors. Like I've never been disrespectful to a superior of mine, even if you hate them with your soul. Just be like very respectful, very professional, because you don't know what will happen again. Like you'll see them in life. They will be like, you know, sometimes like in science, you will see everyone again. Like if you're in that field, you will see them forever and ever. Like I still like, I have people on like my Facebook that are from like that conference, and I don't work in that lab anymore, and they're still asking me questions about the experiments that I did. And I remember, and I will just like send emails to like some of the postdocs in the lab and just continue to keep out open space. Never discourage, never burn bridges. I think that one thing that I'm very proud of, I didn't burn that bridge, because it will hurt a lot in science, because they, again, it's a small field. If you're a woman, it's even smaller, and they will know.
So science communication and communication skills, not just to talk to the public about what we know, what we do, but also during our relationships at the workplace.
Exactly.
So we want to go ahead and take some questions. Not yet? Okay. So before we take some questions from our Facebook Live audience, I would like each of you to tell me mention two community values that you believe have helped you, to become the scientist you are today, and that have helped you become a good team player. So think about your upbringing. Lismar, you're originally from Venezuela, Kelly from Puerto Rico, and Astrid from Brazil, right? So we have a wonderful diverse backgrounds and experiences here. So think about those values, community values or experiences you had that make you an effective team player.
I would say, from where I come from, family is number one. And I think I learned in my house that we were a team. So if my mom was cleaning, we were all cleaning. If my dad was fixing the car, I was there fixing the car, and my brothers too, right? So I think there is a lot to learn when we work together. So if I would say something that I get recognized for and I am proud of, or I value myself as, is a good team player. I absolutely think the best result can be found or obtained through a team and the team effort. So everybody's contribution is unique and is very important. So I learned that cleaning the house and fixing the car with my dad, and then playing baseball or soccer on the street with my neighbors. The other thing I really learned is that, like, our parks or our street, it was ours. So if we didn't take care of it, if I wanted to have a clean park or a clean street to play, I needed to start with myself, making sure we left it better than we found it. And I try to share the same with my kids. So if we go to the beach, we not only pick our trash, we pick whatever trash we find, and I try to leave it better than we found it, because that's what we wanted to pass to the people that come behind after us, right? So I like to do that with my when I volunteer in my kids' school with the science programs, or when we go and do community projects. So it's my planet, it's my city, it's our school, our church, the street I live is my city, right? So I think I see that and I apply that to my company. It's not just for it. My company is my place where I work. I wanted to do it better. And to Astrid's point, when I'm talking about the projects that we're doing, I truly believe on the benefit, and then the benefit not for the U.S. or not for South America or Europe. So I believe on how it's going to be beneficial for the company and for the combined us. So it's important to know who we're talking to prepare our communication, and to recognize the benefits and how it impact each one of us, right? And drive the efforts and the good from everybody from there, right? So that's where I'm coming from.
Thank you. What about you, Kelly? Two community values or personal values? Sorry.
No worries.
Suli.
So I think that one of them that is very important for me is honesty. You need to be honest when you're with your team. There are harsh truths that you don't want to listen to, but it's always good that they tell you. Instead of, you always have to be open about how you feel, what you think is correct, what you think. It's like, what do you believe on? For me, it's like, especially in the science field, and you see, like, for example, vaccination, which is like, there's like a paper that was published like a long time ago that said that vaccination causes autism, and it was like had to be retracted because there was no honesty from like that scientist. Mm-hmm. So we need to be always honest about everything that we do, how we do it, why we do it, and with our team, it is very important to keep that very open so that you can have like an effective communication between each other. And if you don't like something, talk about it. Just be very calm, and then have like that open bridge of communication. And that has helped me so much during the years. And I've always like, I think that everyone that has like a certain type of relationship with me, like friends and everything, know that I try to be as honest as possible, because I do not like lies. I like to be as open and keep that communication, because you don't want to be affected. And then another thing that for me is very important is like spirituality, and to respect that, because there's gonna be a point that you feel like you hit rock bottom, and you feel like, oh, there's like no one around you or like with your team. And then there's always like that, and it doesn't matter, it's like if it's religion, if it's like a way of life or so forth, we're all different and caring. So that is for me very important. And like during our team meetings, we talk about it. We're very open, is like we're in a very diverse world, which I absolutely love and adore. And you learn so much. Like I have friends from I think every single religion, so many different types of spirituality. And that helps like the team sometimes like bond, because we look for things in common. That's one of the things that I learned, and I'm very grateful about my undergrad. We have a class that was like ecumenism, how we put all the religions together and what we have in common. Instead of looking what we have different, that's one of the things that we bond. And it's always like that love and caring. And with your team, like when you're in a team, they end up being your family. You spend more time with them than your actual family. So during the week, you're with them 9 to 5 or more, and then you get home like 5 to 9 till you fall asleep. It'll be bedtime. But it's this part that I think that being honest and respecting beliefs and your spirituality and so forth helps a lot.
Thank you, Kelly. What about you, Astrid?
I will mention fairness. I grew up in a family where at mealtime there was none of that. I'll go somebody will get all the food and leave less for the others, which I see a lot in some families. If you are last, there's not some option. People will take what they want. There's always fairness. And that thing with the meals and everything always reflected in me, because very few things will affect me as strongly as unfairness. So when I see unfairness in the world, in the workplace, or anywhere, it affects me deeply. So fairness is one thing that I carry with me and that I try to always include in everything I do, that make sure that what I'm doing is fair. And another thing is perseverance. I was taught perseverance. If you really want to do something, it's very easy to give up. Everything is against you. At points you're going to feel like, why am I even trying? But if you persevere with a goal, not doing anything stupid, not doing anything, just persevere, strategize, plan around it. If you persevere, you eventually, you can get there. But it's also important to know when to give up. And that fine line is very hard to thread. It can be tricky, but sometimes it's like it's too much. So keeping that balance is very important. But I'll say that perseverance most of the times will win.
Excellent. Perseverance, honesty, being willing to do any job, right? Task at hand. Beautiful. So we would like to take some questions from our Facebook Live audience right now.
We have a question about what advice would you give girls who are interested in being scientists? Anybody who you want to pick it, let's have one person, one scientist answer.
One scientist answer?
One of the panelists.
Okay. So let me pick Astrid. Astrid, what advice do you have for girls that would like or that are aspiring to become scientists someday?
First of all, show that you are interested in it. Just make it clear that you're interested in it. Use all the things. Today you have so many resources. Social media, you have the TV shows, you have all kinds of internet resources. So go into those resources and make your case. Learn for yourself, but let others know also. And that's a very important part of it. And then persevere, as I just said. Follow your gut, follow your path. But most of all, you have to let other people know that you're serious, that it's not, you're just chasing butterflies, or something like that. You really have the interest in it. And I think with this, the perseverance and the dedication to show that your cause is important, you can get there, because nowadays, in terms of education and everything, women have, pretty much the same chances as men. So, yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions from our Facebook Live?
There's one last question. It's for Lismar. The question is, what recommendation do you have or strategies for working in teams? You talked a little bit about teamwork as part of your work at Ford, and they are interested in knowing about that.
So I think the number one thing in working a team is to recognize that internally within the team, if we win together. So we're not competing. So who can talk louder, or who can, or having multiple, who's leading the most. It's about getting together to the finish line in the best way possible with our combined powers. And in doing that, we will show our individual leadership and our combined strength. So when you are working with a team, listen, encourage the one that is perhaps not being listened to, and recognize that each one of us have a role. Maybe somebody's the one coming with the more innovative ideas. Another one is bringing back the team to focusing, right? Somebody's saying, you know what, how can we tackle the issue? How can we break it into pieces that are easily attainable, right? So everyone has something unique to help in the team. So recognize that, and I think that the trick is to learn to acknowledge it, to understand which the role that each person is playing, right? And it's okay to, I may be leading this session, and the next session it may be somebody else, right? So it's the team. I think I have gained a lot, and when you recognize the efforts of your fellow team players, right? And in turn, you get recognition as well. So it's very rewarding as a team. There is nothing like, I play soccer in college, and I don't know if you play soccer, if you play baseball. When you do something as a team, it's so it's memorable, right? And then when you struggle, like Suli was saying, be respectful. If we all know that we're coming from the right place, and we're looking for the best result. So if we have a difference of opinion, we shouldn't take it personal. It's a difference in opinion in a very professional environment with the best objective at heart. So when people, it's very easy to take when somebody disagree or not fully support what you're saying, or have is sometimes even suggesting a tweak. So people might have wear their feelings too much, and then not get stuck into that feeling, as opposed to look at what is the benefit, what are you trying to tell me, right? So know that when you're in a team, trust in your team. Trust that where the feedback is provided is to help each other. And it's okay to have some kind of discussion, because if everybody agrees with the first idea, chances are there were things that potentially weren't contributing to the best idea. So welcome constructive disagreements if you want. So
Thank you, Lismar. Are we taking any other questions? So no more questions for today. We will be happy to answer questions directly in the Facebook Live later on when it's posted. This has been an honor. I came to moderate the panel, and I am leaving inspired. So I took a lot of notes to apply everything that I have learned today. So we would like to thank you for watching us today and for your support to the Smithsonian Latino Center. So thank you. See you next time.